Hello, really good afternoon, good evening and good morning, and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news on this final week of the transfer window, where we have had activity. Obviously, Anthony Martial left last night. Adam obviously reacted to it. I'd spoken about it at 8 o'clock. And a big deal for Manchester United to remove a player that many look. Well, I'm not going to get into it. We spoke about it last night. Martial moves on. What I would talk about is that there the transfer hope that we can still bring a player in. Also, more players leaving and not Jesse Lingard. Lingard may well be going, but there's now another player that looks like he's going to go as well. As United start to clear the decks on players that, you know what, to be honest, I probably wouldn't remove them. But anyway. There is a bit of news coming in this morning from Laurie Whitwell. Athletic obviously gets his information from the club, that there is no fee for Martial. There was some talk last night that Sevilla were going to pay us £5 million for the loan, as well as cover the wages of Martial. The latest is that we're getting no fee for the loan. They're just paying his wages, which will amount to about £4 million, because he's on about £250,000 a week. So United are going to save themselves £4 million in wages, but we don't get a loan fee. It's here. It is what it is, isn't it? I mean, the other big story as well coming out from Italy is that AC Milan still very much would like Eric Bailly. We spoke to Fabrizio Romano about this yesterday. We'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about the latest with Lingard and some updates in relation to Manchester United's stance on the summer transfer window. But I just want to start off about Kamara. Lots of different stories coming out around Kamara of Marseille. I've heard some people saying, is he playing in the AFCON? As far as I remember, he's French, so he won't be playing in the AFCON. He's French. He certainly played at the weekend for Marseille. So he's available. He's free in the summer. Same as Zakaria's situation. And realistically, there is still just under a week left in this transfer window, and United are very active in removing players. One thing I would say is that we've always been made aware, even under Ollie, that you've got to sell to buy. Well, we are removing players. We are removing wages, and normally a loan deal would not be classed as selling with some clubs, but Manchester United pay such massive wages when you remove Martial, who's on about 250 grand a week, from the club for 4 months. You do raise £4 million. Where does that £4 million go? So, you know, that £4 million should not just be being part of the dividends for the Glazers that we know are going out. That £4 million should be invested in some way if you're a serious football club. We're not here to... You know what frustrates me is that if we remove Martial and £4 million worth of wages, and we move Lingard, and that's, you know, maybe we raise another 4 or 5 million from there, whether it be loan, because there will be a loan fee if that happens, and we raise this 10 million... What's happening with that 10 million then? Is that just to cover the dividends for the Glazers? And this is what annoys me about Manchester United. It's like we always have to think about any money that we raise is that the reality is it probably won't go into the playing side of things, because it will go towards the Glazers in one way or another. And the cycle of what the Glazers do: get a new manager in, spend a bit of money, get top four, people buy loads of shirts and merchandise and sponsors, do it all again. And whilst you're rotating that spin wash, you're making loads of money in the process whilst milking everything you can out of the club. So, look, it'll be interesting to see what we do with that. In relation to Kamara, I'd probably go with where I think we are at the moment, is that we're not negotiating with anybody seriously. It is only Tuesday. There are things that can be done. There is a story, I think it's also from Laurie Whitwell as well, The Athletic, where he's basically saying that, and let me just get this right, there's no progression on any incomings at the moment, and that Rangnick is satisfied with the squad. I mean, that totally contradicts what we know about Ralf Rangnick, that actually he wanted a midfielder in the January transfer window. So, you know, what do you believe? Did he want a midfielder or does he not want a midfielder? I think that I still believe that there is a possibility that we bring somebody in, because I think some of these deals that it's almost like when we brought Igalo in a couple of years ago. That was a loan deal, and it was a quick deal to do. And the Zakaria-Kamara deal, I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be very surprised if Kamara and Zakaria are still at Marseille and Mönchengladbach a week today. I think somebody will do something with one of those players, because they're quick deals to do. If I'm Aston Villa and I can convince Kamara to come to Aston Villa, all I've got to do is say, there's your wages, there's a few million for Marseille, come and join us. So you can do it very quickly. I mean, in many ways, a loan deal is as hard as a deal as it is to do for Kamara or Zakaria, because a loan deal, you've just got to, the player's got to want to come, you cover the wages, you give a bit of money to the club normally. Quite easy to do, you can quite quick to do. Same if players are out of contract in the summer. It's the same with Lingard. Like, these deals it could be a loan deal, it could be a permanent deal. They can be done quickly. So I'm not giving up hope that United can do something. And we certainly know that they've had talks with representatives of some of these players. It doesn't look like they're ongoing at the moment. But I don't agree with the fact that we are going to rest on what we're doing. And I would basically say this, that I think that if United don't get top 4, it's open season on the board, because it's almost like they're trying to differentiate themselves from the board that after we lost to Liverpool sat there in a board meeting when everybody expected Solskjaer to get sacked and backed him. And then did the same after Man City. And then in the international break, backed him again. And only sacked him when basically they had to sack him after the 4-1 Watford win. What people forget is that Richard Arnold, John Murtagh, Darren Fletcher sat in that boardroom with Ed Woodward and decided to stick with Ollie way longer than they should have done. And it's like, because Ollie's gone and Woodward's going, it's like they're not part of the problem, but you still very much are. You're not getting a clean slate, lads. You're not. You've been at that club for years. Murtagh's been there years. Arnold's been there years. You're not having a clean slate. You're still associated with the problem that we don't get into title races, we don't buy well, we don't sell well, and we're forever trying to move the standards down to being happy about fighting for 4th place. I'm sorry, I don't know why they're sat there in a position of comfort going, we'll just wait and see what happens in the summer. Things are volatile around that football club. There was big protests last summer. They're worried. That's why yesterday the story came out that Richard Arnold's talking to Gary Neville and people like that, because the last thing they want is turmoil and criticism around the club again, because they know how quick things can escalate against the club. And I would wonder, this is just United fans not being very happy with the way the club's been run over the last 10 years. And ultimately, it's the Glazers. The Glazers own the club. You can have a go at Ed Woodward, you can have a go at the director of football, you can have a go at the manager, but it's the Glazers who ultimately are in charge. And we've not been anywhere near a title race for 10 years. Nowhere near. The 2 second places were a joke. It was so far away, we may as well have been mid-table. It was a joke how far we were off the title. We are consistently, over the last 10 years, fighting for 4th. Sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't. That's what they've turned this football club into. If we're in the Europa League in the summer and Ronaldo leaves, how bad would that be received by the fans compared to them trying to take us into a Super League? Because I personally think that would be embarrassing for the club to be back in the Europa League and losing a player that they only brought back 12 months ago. You talk about low moments, I think that would be the biggest of the low. So I think that United have got this all wrong at the moment. They're sat there on their principles going, oh, you know what, we're happy with what we've got, and we're not going to buy anyone till the summer. And it's that pure, you know what the word is? Pure arrogance. It's pure arrogance that they think they know what they're doing, when ultimately they might get away with it, but all they're really doing is rolling a dice and hoping they throw a 6. Like, there's absolutely no football logic to what they're doing at that football club. You cannot sit there in any sense and say to the fans, we're not buying anybody now because we'll sort it in the summer, and convince fans that we will be in the Champions League in the summer. They may well be. I certainly think there's a chance we could be, even though I don't think it will happen. I think there's a chance. But that's basically what they're doing with the future of Manchester United. They're going, we're not going to buy anybody until the summer. We're happy with what we've got. And then well, you're not happy with what you've got because the contradiction's there quite clearly. Everybody knows we need a midfielder. They know we need a midfielder, but what they're really doing is going, we're focusing on the summer. Everything they do is riddled with hypocrisy. This story that comes out from Whitwell will probably be from the club itself, and it basically is United and Rangnick are content with the squad that they've got and will look at midfielders in the summer. Well, that's a lie then, isn't it? That's an absolute lie. If I say I'm happy with my Vauxhall Astra, but I'm going to buy an Audi in the summer, that means I really want an Audi and I'm waiting till the summer because I'm saving up or for various reasons. But I want an Audi. So when United say we want a midfielder in the summer, but we're content with what we've got now, it's glaringly obvious that we need a midfielder, and what they're doing is they're waiting till the summer for different reasons. So look, I'm not saying that the gamble's not going to pay off. They may well get away with it, but if they don't get away with it, it's very clearly going to be open season on the people who are still on that board who... And you know what? If I was Richard Arnold, I'd be getting a midfielder this week. I would be... Woodward leaves on the 1st of February, the day after the transfer window closes. If I'm Richard Arnold, I'm getting a midfielder this week. Because you know what? You don't want your first few months to be bad. Imagine he takes the job on February the 1st. United don't get top 4. That's going to be the biggest kick in the teeth we've had for a long time, to fail to get top 4 with the squad that we have. I would be desperately trying to get a midfielder if I was him. Keen to see a signing coming in, benched and never played. Endless cycle, says BOM. So look, I do think that there is hope that United can do something, because these deals that are there are relatively easy to do. But at the moment, the club are still very much putting it out that they're not planning on doing anything and they're happy with what they've got. And the best thing about that thing from The Athletic is that Rangnick's happy with what he's got. I don't think he's happy with what he's got. He's very clearly spoken about the midfield. He's spoken about it in press conferences. I think he might have had to accept what he's got. I certainly think he wanted a midfielder, and he might accept what he's got. But I don't think he's gone into that club and gone, yeah, don't get me a midfielder in January. I'm more than happy with what I've got. I think he's probably been told you're not having one and gone, okay, I'll do what I can with it. I think that's the more likely thing. And the thing that frustrates me the most is the arrogance to say, we're happy with what we've got, we're going to wait till the summer. Do they actually realise that they are making it very obvious that they're trying to save money again? Because you know what they're going to do in the summer? They'll buy Declan Rice and they'll buy one midfielder. We need two. We need two midfielders in the summer. Not one, we need two. Because Nemanja Matic cannot be allowed to stay for another year. He's a waste of time. Pogba's going to leave. And God knows what's going on with Donny. And I like Matic, but you know what? This is what I said to Ricky on Sunday night. There's no point in him being here. He's got another year on his contract. There was no point in him being here this year. He's a waste of time. Matic is a waste of time. He can't play 90 minutes. And you know, I know Ricky said, well, squad players are important. Squad players are important, but they've got to be able to play 90 minutes. The whole point of a squad player is that if you get an injury, somebody can play 90 minutes. If McTominay and Fred get injured, Matic can't play 60 minutes in a week, let alone 2 games. I think the balance of that squad in the midfield is ridiculous. Why are the clubs so daft to think they can get their first choice targets in the summer, especially since Champions League is not guaranteed? Well, this is it, Moyad. It's always about tomorrow with Manchester United. One of the key factors of the Woodward reign was always talking about the future. We're going to be this, we're going to be that. In the summer, we're going to buy 4 players, and then we won't buy 4 players. And we might well be buying Europa League quality players. But I would stand by that we actually need 2 midfielders, so it would make sense to bring one in now and then one in the summer. And you get your cheaper one now and your more expensive one in the summer. I mean, also, this is coming from the Telegraph in relation to outgoings. Obviously, Martial's gone. Lingard very much looking like that could happen. But Eric Bailly, AC Milan, still think they can get him. Donny van de Beek is still a possibility, but Dean Henderson will not be allowed to leave. And again, I just think that this, the arrogance of United is astounding. Like, they sit there going, we're only going to loan players if people cover the full wages. And you gave them the wages in the bloody first place. They like sit there pedantically going, yeah, we're not going to let you have Martial unless you're going to pay £250,000. Well, you're the twats who paid £250,000 in the first place. What are you going to do? Just sit him on the bench and pay him at $4 million over the next few years? At some point, you've got over the next few months, you've got to think about what you're doing. How can United... Look, a lot of people have said stuff about Dean Henderson, whether he leaks the team or anything like that. I don't know whether that's true or not. I think it's a bit unfair to say stuff unless you know it's factually true. But if it was true, why would you keep him near the club? But more importantly, Dean Henderson needs to play football, and United are saying you're not going anywhere till the summer. So that's another year of a short career wasted. Donny van de Beek, you're not allowed to leave. I think he's played 20 minutes in January. 20 minutes Donny van de Beek has played in January, and yet we've played in the Cup. And we paid him for 20 minutes. Shocking. Absolutely shocking how Donny van de Beek's been used. And I think that, again, him staying at the club... You know what? When keeping Donny van de Beek at this football club until the summer, you know what that is? Sit on the bench and just be somebody so we don't have to... I can see why they want to keep Van de Beek. And if Donny van de Beek is in any way capable of understanding this situation, this is why you need to ask to leave this week. The only reason they're keeping you at this club, Donny, is because they don't want to buy a midfielder. It's financial. It's not about ability. They've got no trust in you. They don't believe in you. They don't think you're good enough. And you're waiting for an opportunity that's never really been given. Why are you waiting? The only reason they value you is as an asset. When Rangnick is saying, please stay at the club, you're important, what he really means is, I can't buy a midfielder that I need, so I need somebody to sit on the bench just in case the shit hits the fan, i.e. Fred and McTominay get injured. You are there as compensation. You are there if we have an injury crisis. Your path to the first team is non-existent. Pogba's coming back, Bruno's been suspended, you still didn't get any game time. You are only there as a stopgap, cheap option because you're already there. That's why Van der Beek's here. That's why I want him to go. I want him to go for his career, and therefore it forces us to bring a midfielder in, which we need. Van der Beek it's just arrogance again from United. Oh, please stay, Donny. We really need you. No, you don't. You just want him there as a squad member in case there's an injury crisis, which is again just negative thinking from United. So I'd love Van der Beek to go, and I'd love Henderson to go because I think they deserve game time. But typically United will use them just to fill quotas in case they have an injury crisis. I've got no intention of giving them a chance. Joe says we can't afford to do nothing. Up to 14 players may leave in the summer. How are we going to do all that in the summer, says Joe. And Mark, tragically, traditionally United is infested with non-football people and ex-players who think they can somehow repeat the genius of Sir Alex. Need rid of that, says Andy and Bruno. Well, look, you know what? Might want to stay as wife must be due soon, says Robert McCormack. Oh, yes, in relation to Donny, I know what you mean. Yes, he has got a baby on the way. But look, he can have a baby on the way, Robert, and go on loan to Everton and stay in the same house. That's the place I would let him go because Everton are in a relegation battle. They're no threat to us. So, yeah, I think that would be a decent idea. But look, you know what? I get tired of people saying, you're being negative and this, that, and the other. I mean, if people think it's negativity, I couldn't give two shits. Really, it's up to them. But what I don't understand. To try and understand my feeling around the club is to explain why, I probably do spend a lot of time quite passionately talking about the issues, because I don't think the club's in a good position. I really don't. I refuse to let myself be drowned by what we've been, swamped with over the last 10 years. We're nowhere near where Manchester United should be. We are the Bayern Munich of England. We are. That's what we are. Fan base, structure, history, club size, we are the Bayern Munich of England. But the Glazers have basically turned us into Everton. We're not the biggest club in England. Because the biggest club in England, we are the biggest club in England on fan base. Our fan base is amazing. And size of club. But, you've also got to be... We're basically becoming Liverpool 15 years ago. Liverpool's first 25 years in the Premier League is what we're becoming. This massive club that's actually not a threat to anybody on the football pitch, which is where it matters. So that's why I spend a lot of time passionately talking about things that bother me, because we're not where we need to be, and it's a constant. I don't know what you do as United fans, but I spend a lot of my time thinking and sort of having a wake-up moment going, bloody hell, how are we in this position? And I look at the change, I look at the CEO change, and I don't see change. I hope I'm going to be wrong, but I really think Richard Arnold could be worse than Woodward. Hopefully he'll be better, but I don't think he's going to be any different. I actually can see a scenario that should terrify him. And that is no player brought in January, no Champions League football in the summer, a crap summer, and then, you are the CEO, you're in charge. You can't... In no job in my life have you been given, as a boss, a gardening period where everyone just goes, oh, he's new in the role, let's see what he is. Especially, he's not new in the role. Like, he's not new in the role. He's sat on board meetings for the last God knows how many years. He's been Woodward's right-hand man, basically, for nearly 10 years. He's not new in the role. He's taken over a role that he's seen somebody else do badly for a decade. Now, is he going to do it badly as well? Because I tell you what, He might think it's a dream job. It'll be a bloody nightmare job if this goes tits up. And things could go tits up in the next few months. Key decisions need to be made. You've got to make a big decision around the manager. You've got to make a big decision about recruitment and retention of players in the summer. And you've got to try and keep players happy. There's contracts to be renewed. There's people with clauses in their contract that they could leave if we're not in the Champions League. So it's a big, big mess at Manchester United. Can we have Donny at Ipswich with McKenna, says Cameron? He wouldn't go down that far. No way would he go down that far. So yeah, look, I go back. There is hope that United can do something this week, but as things stand at the moment, they're still very much putting it out there that they're happy with what they've got. But don't buy the nonsense. This nonsense story that's come out from The Athletic this morning that Rangnick is content with what he's got and United aren't negotiating with anybody. Rangnick himself in his press conference 2 times now has spoken about the deficiencies in the midfield. And we've heard from people like Romano that Rangnick wanted a midfielder and, had mentioned Zakaria and people like that. And we also heard that the club themselves decided that they didn't think Zakaria was right. The club are playing a very dangerous game here. Ralf Rangnick is an interim coach. He's not a full-time coach. He cannot take the blame for lack of recruitment in January. All he can do is go in and say, I think these players would be suitable to help our midfield out, which the world knows isn't good enough. And United decide not to do it for whatever reason. Financial, we don't want to buy anybody in case the new manager doesn't want them. Whatever decision they make in this January transfer window, it will not be on the manager. It will be on the board. And that board needs to tread very carefully. They're playing a game of roll the dice. They've got no clue whether we're going to get top 4. And they need to get top 4 because if they don't, it comes down on the board. And when I'm talking about the board, I'm talking about Richard Arnold, I'm talking about Darren Fletcher, and I'm talking about John Murtagh. They are the 3 people that will have this on their shoulders if we don't get top 4. Whether you like them or not, they will. Technical director, director of football and CEO. They've got the power to spend 5 million, 10 million to bring a midfielder in. And if they decide not to, we better get top 4. Simple as that. And on top 4, what did I say after the Wolves game? Was it the Wolves game? It was the Villa game in the Cup where we won at home, but we didn't play particularly well. My eyes are wide open as a United fan to this. We're not good enough. Simple as that. We are not good enough. There is no hope that we are going to be good enough. We are not good enough. We have some players that are good enough. You know who they are. They might be slightly different to me, but in the main, I think we could all probably name 5, 6, 7 first team players that are good enough. We're 4 or 5 short. That doesn't mean that the players that aren't good enough don't try hard and couldn't be good squad players or bench players or backups. But ultimately, the reason we aren't anywhere near Man City and Liverpool and Chelsea, and I think this conversation isn't had enough, we're nowhere near Man City, Liverpool and Chelsea. Not close. So we can all celebrate the last minute winner against West Ham, who, to be honest, under Moyes, even at Everton, every away ground he goes to in the top 4, he parks the bus anyway. So, whatever you think, West Ham didn't come and have a go at us at the weekend. We are nowhere near Liverpool, Man City and Chelsea. And the reason we're nowhere near Liverpool and Man City and Chelsea is because we've got a lot of players that just aren't good enough. And that is why I fear for us at top 4. I think we've got the best squad for top 4, but we're in a race for top 4 because we're actually just not that good in relation to being one of the best teams in England. And that's a harsh reality that everybody at that football club should open their eyes to. We are not suffering hard times. We are not unlucky. We are not good enough. There are players in that football club having a laugh. They're on ridiculous money. They're on the money. They're on wages. People like Virgil van Dijk and Mo Salah should be on, and they shouldn't be on. We've got too many players in that club who are not good enough, and that is why it worries me over the next few months. It really does. There's a big imbalance in the team, I agree. So, in relation to transfer news, this is coming from the Telegraph, James Ducker. Lingard, Jesse Lingard, Manchester United are driving a hard bargain with him. Leicester have expressed an interest. Now, it's interesting because I've said this before about Lingard. Leicester would be a good move for him. Everton would be a good move for him. But I think from United's point of view, the money is going to be better from Newcastle. So United driving a hard bargain there. I would expect, if Lingard goes to Newcastle, I would expect United to walk out of that deal with at least 6 million. Because his wages are about 100 grand a week. So that's what, 400 grand. So you're going to make about 2 million by not paying his wages, and I reckon we'd get another maybe 4 million from them in a loan fee. So that's another 6 million on 6 million from Lingard all in, plus 4 million from Martial's wages. That's 10 million quid we're going to make between January and the end of the season, just with Lingard and Martial going. The Telegraph also goes on to say that there could be late moves for Donny, Beek, Phil Jones, but Henderson will stay. Eric Beek, there is a bit of a breaking story this morning from Italy that Milan are still very interested. Look, I don't know what people think about Eric Beek. I personally didn't really agree with Martial going, but I think he wants to go. And Sevilla are second in La Liga, 4 points off Real Madrid. I would be keeping an eye on what he's doing at Sevilla anyway, because he's not left. I mean, if Martial had left to Sevilla for 40 million, I'd still keep an eye on him. I like Martial. I want him to do well. And I would wish him all the best. He's one of those United players that when they leave, I would wish him all the best. Same with Jesse. So, if Lingard goes to Newcastle, I'll be keeping an eye like I did at West Ham. And I will be keeping an eye on Martial at Sevilla. So, but Eric Bailly leaving... I still look at the way that Rangnick plays and wants to play with a high line and think, why would you not play Varane and Bailly as your centre backs? It just, he's got that explosive recovery pace that will allow us to play a high line like a Liverpool. But Eric Bailly, I think, is another Anthony Martial. Mark, Klopp and Pep would only take De Gea, Varane, Bruno, and Ronaldo. Harsh, but I think true, says Andy and Bruno. I think they'd probably take Pogba as well. But I think with Eric Bailly, if he does leave Manchester United, it would be very similar to Anthony Martial for me, because I would be like, why are we letting him go? But I think he's going to go because of the problems of the past. Martial wants to go. I saw a clip of Martial actually when he left the pitch on Saturday, and I hadn't seen it. I'd heard a rumour of it, and you might be able to find it on Twitter. Basically, he's walking off Old Trafford and he's next to Greenwood, and the press officer comes next to him and sort of says, well done. He's got a really pissed off face, and he sort of gestures at the crowd as if to go, he heard the booing basically. So, well done if you booed him, because, a player that's been at this club for however many years, provided some big moments. His enduring image as he walked off the pitch, probably for his last time, is that the crowd booed him. I don't think he deserved that. There'll be a lot of people laughing, going, yeah, he did deserve it, probably adding his nationality into it and using that as an excuse to dislike him, like some people seem to think is a fair thing to do. I think it's disgusting that he got booed, brought onto the pitch. And, I do blame Rangnick and the club for that, because I think it never should have been communicated how it was. And then the club came out and said it was miscommunication anyway. So it wasn't the story we got, and that's why he got booed. So, you know what? I think it's a real shame, but I think Martial just decided he'd had enough and he wanted to go. Before all that, I think the way he'd been treated by Ollie, I think he'd had enough. And I think Eric Bailly's in the same position. I think he's probably, whether Rangnick wants to keep him or not, he's probably said, I want to go. And again, look, the thing with Eric Bailly is that he is a player who is realistically, and there's another update here I need to bring you actually, about Rangnick wanting a signing, which is quite interesting. The Eric Bailly situation, even this season, and we've seen it with Eric Bailly over the last few seasons, he'll come into the team. I remember him coming into the team under Ollie, probably coming up for 2 years ago now. We played Chelsea away in the February of, maybe it was 2020, maybe it was just before COVID. He came in to the team and played away against Chelsea 2 years ago, I think it was. It can't have been a year ago, because I'm sure it was a crowd was there. So 2 years ago, we either won 1-0 or we drew 0-0. I think we might have won. And Eric Bailly was arguably man of the match. The next game, I think we were home to some lower league team, and Bailly was taken out of the team for Lindelof, and he went back to Lindelof and Maguire. That happened again this season. Bailly played against Chelsea and did really well, and then was straight out the team again. So he's another one. He's probably got more of a case than Martial, because Martial over the last year has been a bit out of form. But Bailly, every time he plays well and he does it against big teams, he's straight back out the team again. So I think he's got every right to be saying, I want to leave. Because if Rangnick said to him, well, I value you, you just say, are you going to start me with Varane? No. Well, I'm off then. I'm not here to be a squad player. Like, I've proved that I can play. I know I can be a first team player for a top European club, and I want to go. And I think that's basically what Eric Bailly's probably said. You know, why should he sit on the bench and watch people like Harry Maguire and Victor Lindelof play consistently ahead of him when he thinks he's better than them? And that's the debate point, isn't it? I'd like Bailly to stay because he offers something that Maguire and Lindelof don't, and that's genuine recovery pace. Which I think is important if you want to play a high line. But I just don't think he wants to stay and sit on the bench anymore. And you can't argue with that. You can't argue with that. So I wouldn't be surprised if Eric Bailly goes for the same reason Martial went. And it's a confusing one because Martial offers us something very different and Eric Bailly offers us something very different. But I think both players have just said, I've had enough. I don't agree with me. You know, and every player's got a right to do this. And this is exactly what Donny should do. A player knocking on a manager's door, whether it's at Liverpool, Man United or wherever, and saying, I want to leave because I think I'm better than the players that you're picking. That's not disrespecting the club, the fans or anything like that. They want to play for the club, but they're not being picked. You know, why should they just sit there and take a wage and go, yeah, I'm really happy to sit on the bench? Like, you've got to value yourself. And I think Martial's valued himself. I think Dean Henderson's valued himself, but they won't let him go. And I think Eric Bailly's valued himself. I think Donny needs to value himself as well, because all four of those players should be being let go in January because the club just haven't utilised them the way that they believe that they should have. But yeah, I agree with Kevin that we're crying out for centre-backs with pace and we're letting them all go. You know, Mengi's gone on loan to Birmingham. Twansebi's obviously on loan now at Napoli. And Bailly's going to be potentially going as well. So we're going to leave ourselves with Varane, Maguire, Lindelof and Jones. And again, Varane's had 2 key injuries this season. If he picks up another one, your 3 centre-backs are Phil Jones, Harry Maguire and Lindelof. And yet the club are going, we won't buy a midfielder because we're going to wait till the summer. I mean, imagine worst case scenario, right? We've got no midfield anyway, so we're always open to losing a midfield battle. On top of that, you lose Varane for injury, so you're playing Maguire and Lindelof with that midfield, and then you still think you're going to get top 4. We're only one more Varane injury away from being in real shit. But look, there's a bit of further update here from Laurie Whitwell, which is quite encouraging because obviously we know that he's got good contacts with the club. And he's basically saying that Ralf Rangnick would have liked an addition or 2 in January, with Hadara one name in his mind, but Man United have not progressed any talks on any signings. So there you go. I'm glad that update's come out from The Athletic because that's the truth. That is the truth, that Manchester United are without shadow of a doubt, and Ralf Rangnick without shadow of a doubt wanted to bring a player in, and this is what I mean about open season on this new board. Or it's not a new board. I don't want to hear about new board. Richard Arnold's not new. Murtaugh's not new. They're not new. They've been there for a long, long time. They've just been given new roles. It's open season on this board. And I think as fans, any frustration you've got if we don't get top 4 or we start having bad results has to be based on this next week. I think the removal of players has to happen because they want... I mean, look, you've also got to ask yourself this. Would Anthony Martial still be at Manchester United if he wasn't insistent on going? I think this is a great question. Would Anthony Martial still be at Manchester United in February if he hadn't forced a move? Yes, he would. Yes, he would. Categorically, yes. I asked this question 2 weeks ago to somebody who would know. I said, would Martial still be at the club if he wasn't desperate to leave? Yes. There is no way United were looking to loan Martial in January. The only reason they've done it is because Martial was insistent that he wanted to go. So there's your competent board for you. They might sort of go, we've saved ourselves 4 million in wages. They had no intention of letting Martial go. He's put the work in. There's even talk that he's took a pay cut at Sevilla to play. So let's not pretend that this board's doing great work. They've ignored Rangnick. I mean, that's from Laurie Whitwell in The Athletic, who has got good contacts around the club. He's just said that Rangnick wanted 1 or 2 to come in, but the club have not progressed any talks. There's your problem. The board, again, Murtaugh, Fletcher, Woodward, Arnold. That's the problem. People who think they know, we'll get top 4, we'll wait till the summer. That's the problem. I'm telling you now, lads. I'm telling you, I feel like Ricky. Telling you now, it's been well leaked over the last 6 weeks that Rangnick wanted to bring players in. It's been well known for 6 weeks. We've been talking it on this channel. We've had people on this channel, and there's a lot of people who know as well. Rangnick wanted to bring players in, and the club haven't done it. They haven't done it. And now they're trying to hide behind, oh, we're doing good business on outs. Bay's forcing to move out. They don't want him to go. Martial's forced his move out. They wouldn't have let him go. Henderson wants to go. They won't let him go. Donny wants to go. They won't let him go. Lingard's the only one, and Pogba, that United would love to sell because they're not going to get any money for them in the summer. Lingard, they're desperate to get rid of. And it's not because if he had 2 years on his contract, they'd be like, oh, stay, Jesse, stay. But they want Lingard to go because he's going to go for nothing in the summer. So any money they can get, that's the one that they're working on. The Martial one, it's only because Martial did it. So Donny does want to go, yes, Kevin. It was confirmed by Romano yesterday. He does want to go, but it's how intensely he's pushing that. That's the issue. Martial hasn't got the commitment to play for a huge club like United. He's better off playing in the sun in Spain where they get it easy, says Owen. Nothing like a bit of prejudice, Owen. And Mata will soon sign for another. Mata will sign for another. I don't know why Mata's here, Steve. I put Mata and Matic in the same boat. It's like a retirement home for footballers. I mean, I think Cavani and Ronaldo are older than both those players, but there is a massive, massive difference between Cavani and Ronaldo. They actually can still play at the highest level in their mid-30s. Mata 4 years ago, I saw him on the opening day against Leicester and he got put on toast by, I think it was Chilwell. He's been done for years, Mata. I love Mata. I think he's one of the most wasted signings United have ever made. When he was playing for Chelsea in Spain, he was one of the best number 10s in the world. He was unbelievable. And when we bought him, I was like, oh my God, what a player we've got. We put him on the right wing and then just ruined him, really. I mean, he's had a couple of good moments at United. We'll never forget Wanfield, but waste of a talent. And he's past it now. He's finished. He shouldn't even be at Man United. He's no. We got told last summer. Can remember some of you even said it. Oh yeah, but he's a great player to have around the pitch in the coaching. Oh yeah. Mata had a big difference, didn't he? 4 whatever to Leicester, 4 whatever to Watford, 5 to Liverpool. I mean, people just fall in love with romance of, oh, we love Mata. He might be past it, but he'll have a big influence on the young players and he'll have a big influence in the coaching. Oh yeah, that went really well, didn't it? We need to stop being sentimental and living in the past and start being a bloody football club. Matic is done. I really wish Matic was what he was like when he was 26, but he's done. He can't play longer than an hour. You can see him visibly getting slower. It's like if you've got an electric toothbrush, when you first charge it up for the first couple of days, you're like, oh my God, I'll never do, I should be on an advert with how well it's cleaning my teeth. And then it starts flashing as it starts getting slower and slower, and then it just suddenly stops. That's what Matic is like in our midfield. For the first hour, he's like a freshly charged toothbrush, electric toothbrush. He's all over the place. And then towards the end, it's just getting less and less and less in the last half an hour. Shouldn't be here. Again, it's about money. As I said to Donny earlier on, you're only here because you're an asset. That means that they don't have to... If they keep Van der Beek, they don't have to buy a midfielder because they can go, well, look, you've got loads of midfielders. But they never use him. It's just a con job. Same as Matic. Matic is only at this football club so they can say, we've got options in the midfield. But he's not an option in the midfield. He can't play 90 minutes in a week. So United, it's just manipulation. We don't need a midfielder because we've got Van der Beek and Matic. What? Somebody who never play and somebody who can't play 90 minutes. Neither of them should be here. So, should Sir Alex Ferguson not shoulder part of the blame for United's problems, considering he's one of the main footballing influences on the board, says Ash? Well, no. I mean, look, you'll never get any criticism of Sir Alex from me. It's in footballing terms, it's sacrilegious. I won't do it. For me, my football personality, the reason I am like I am on these shows is because of Sir Alex Ferguson. He was aggressive, competitive, didn't take any prisoners. For me, he was one of the biggest influences on my footballing career because I grew up watching his teams, listening to his interviews. So I will never say a bad word against Sir Alex Ferguson. He's an absolute legend. And I don't actually know what influence he does have because I try not to get involved in this because I just don't want to say anything negative about him. But I have been told stuff over the years, and basically I've been told that he doesn't really have any say at all. he's a bit like Sir Bobby was for years and years, where they are on the board as almost ambassadors on the board because of what they've done for the club, but they're not involved in the day-to-day running. They're not involved in transfer budgets or signings or anything like that. There are rumours that they get consulted on things, and he obviously spoke to Ronaldo, but I don't think he has a massive involvement at all. Matter will sign for another season, says Steve. So yeah, I don't think he has a big part in it at all. It's like Tom Grant says. For me personally, Sir Alex Ferguson is untouchable. I just think he's amazing, and I can't. I'm not. Look, one thing I would say is I knew Moyes was a bad appointment, and it was really hard because the day that Sir Alex Ferguson retired, I just never forget the compilation they put up on Sky, and it was like, we dream the same dream, we want the same thing, and it was that whole song, and it gives me goosebumps now. It's a song that I would have probably turned off on the radio, but they used it with compilations of everything from 94 all the way to the end, and it gives me goosebumps now. And it's like, we do, that's what Sir Alex Ferguson was to me. We all dreamed the same dream and we all wanted the same thing, which was Manchester United back on top. And I was sort of at a crossroads because I was like, this is the end of something that we'll never have again. I always knew we'd never have that again because what we had was unbelievable. But then he's on the pitch saying you've got to back your next manager, and I just didn't agree with Moyes. I didn't agree with Moyes, and so it came to pass. He was just woefully out of his depth. But Sir Alex Ferguson did make mistakes. Jemba was one. Cleverson was another. Oberton and Beppe, and there was nobody's perfect, but he in our history is pretty close to it, and I don't think he can take any blame. And I people say, I wish we could have him back. We had him for long enough. He should be allowed to enjoy his retirement as the legend that he is. And God, what he achieved for us. I remember when I lived in Ireland and stuff, and my best mate and best man at my wedding, a big Man United fan as well, we'd often sit there having a pint going, enjoy this, because when he retires, it won't ever be the same. But we never thought it would be like this. When Sir Alex Ferguson retired, I thought, right, we won't be challenging for the title every year, but we'll still win a couple of titles every sort of 8 years, something like that. I never expected us to never challenge for a title again. And you know what? When you think about it, it's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. I'm guilty of it. You're guilty of it. The standards and the apathy that we have to what United have become, it's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And the reason the Glazers have got away with it, it's that drip effect. If they just turned the shower on full blast, we'd have noticed the shit they were drenching us in. But they've done it sort of drip, and it's been gradual. But it's actually filled the bath up with shit, and now we're just swimming in shit. Where we are as a football club, if you'd said to every United fan the day Sir Alex Ferguson retired, over the next 9 years you will never be in a title race again, you're going to squander over £1 billion, your squad in 10 years time is going to be full of players that aren't good enough on ridiculous wages that you can't sell, and the only trophies you're going to win is one FA Cup, one Carabao Cup and one Europa League in the next 10 years, you would have gone, where are we marching to? This ain't happening. But because they've done it gradually, they've got away with it, and now they've set the bar low. And they're doing it again. They're doing it again right now. Most of United's planning is basically roll the dice and hope for a 6. And that's what we're doing now. Rangnick wants players in. They won't do it. Players are forcing their way out. And we're gambling on top 4. And the only reason we're going to get top 4 is this. Arsenal are Arsenal and Spurs are Spurs. I don't believe West Ham are in the race. I don't really believe Wolves are in the race. The only reason we'll get top 4 is because we've got a better squad than everybody else. And I think we're capable of grinding out results better than everybody else. And Arsenal will do an Arsenal and Spurs will do a Spurs. If we were up against if we were up against Chelsea for 4th spot, we'd be screwed. Imagine Chelsea had a bad start to the season and then they were coming back. We'd be screwed. The only reason they're gambling on top 4 without spending money is because they're thinking Arsenal will do an Arsenal and Spurs will do a Spurs. Is it sad to see so many players wanting to leave, says Salah? No, I absolutely agree with players wanting to leave. It's not a problem for me. If you're Donny van der Beek, or your Eric Bailly. You know, you've never really been given opportunities. When you've been given opportunities, you've done reasonably well, and then you're never allowed to back it up. I've got no problem with those two players demanding to leave. In fact, I think Donny should. Mark, you said make a list of all Sentimental options for all top 15 APL clubs and show to Ricky. He thinks McFred, Matic and Garner are good options. Says Michael. I don't have any... Look, you know what? The truth will set you free. When it comes to our team, I don't dislike any of our players, but I would sit down and say this, and anybody who has an issue with me saying this is very insecure. I would sit down with Harry Maguire right now and say, Harry, the problem with your team as captain is, and the reason you fail, is because your players aren't good enough. That squad's not good enough. And if you ask me for names, I'll give them in, but it's not good enough. You're never going to win the league. Do you think... I'd sit him down and go, do you think you're going to be a Premier League captain? Winner. And if he said, yeah, I'd laugh. I'd say, mate, you never. Not with that team. You're never going to win a Premier League. Doesn't matter how hard you try. Doesn't matter how many times you pick yourself up. Doesn't matter how many good games you have. You'll never win a Premier League title with that team. It's just not good enough. I don't think our fans need to get angry or vicious or have an agenda against any player, because you're a team. You're a collective. If you think the right back's not good enough, or the left back, or the centre midfielder, well, you're focusing it. Teams win titles. Our team's not good enough. It's probably good enough for fourth, but it's not good enough to win a title. It's nowhere near good enough to win a title, and that's the problem at United. And I just want to finish on a positive and say, in relation to Ralf Rangnick, he definitely wanted to bring at least one player in this January transfer window. So ultimately, as per Mourinho and Van Gaal and Ollie, every manager we've had, even Moyes, has been hindered by this board. Moyes has said it publicly. Van Gaal has said it publicly. Mourinho has said it publicly. Ollie probably won't say it publicly because he's got too much respect. But Rangnick wanted a midfielder this window, and if they don't get him one, that's yet another manager who's been let down. And that's on the board. And all I'm saying is keep your eye on the board, because they're always trying to deflect. Have you not noticed with this board that they're almost pretending that they're new as well? It feels to me like since Rangnick's come in, the board are almost like, yeah, we're all new together. You're not new together. You sat on the board for years. You were there saying keep Ollie. You're not new. Rangnick's new. You won't give him a player. And I just want to say this about Rangnick. One of the big problems with Manchester United is complacency and inconsistency. I think we can all agree with that. We're more than capable of... We're capable of going to the Etihad and winning. People will laugh, but we've done it. We're capable of beating anybody on our day, but we're not capable of doing it over 10 games, let alone 38. We will never be a decent side because we've got no consistency. But where I'll applaud Rangnick is that he's the only manager I've seen in a very long time that is actually making players perform better, because he's sort of instilling consistency in them as much as he can do, in the sense that Harry Maguire, Marcus Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, they're three players, Aaron Wan-Bissaka as well, 4 players that under Ollie, injured, not injured, out of form, in form, just play them for 90 minutes, consistently play them for 90 minutes. And that's where complacency comes from, because you get a selection of players who believe they're going to play no matter what, and as well, their replacements, if they do play, will know they're coming straight out of the team. So enthusiasm disappears. Rangnick has dropped Maguire, he's dropped Rashford, he's dropped Bruno, he's dropped Wan-Bissaka. And some of those players have come back into the team and been better for it. So I actually think Rangnick, I don't want him to be the long-term coach. I might change my mind on that. But where I would applaud Rangnick, and why he should have been given a player this January transfer window, is that he's done something that needed to be done. And Maguire played well at the weekend. Rashford's got 2 goals in 2 substitute appearances. Would that have happened if under Ollie, where they just kept playing and playing and playing? We never would have seen Elanga. You know, we never would have seen Lindelof at centre-back. So I applaud Rangnick because he's actually started to do something that needed to happen at this club for a while. I still don't think we've got good enough players, but he's getting a little bit more out of them, and he should have been given a player. So it's not all doom and gloom. I think some of the things that Rangnick's done has been really, really positive, but ultimately it's another manager not being given what he wants. He wanted a midfielder, and I think it's such a shame, because I think in 10 weeks we've seen a gradual growth with Rangnick, And, you know, that for me is one of the biggest things he's done. He's started to get more consistency out of players by dropping them and making them realise that you're not going to play every week. He should have been rewarded with a midfielder, because imagine if, you know, the horriblest thing for me is he's told that club 2 or 3 midfielders that are available in January, and they've gone no. And I'm forever going to be thinking, what would have happened and who would it have been if he'd have got the midfielder? Because there's no doubt that Rangnick's had bumps in the road, but it's been a slow burner. And I just would have been so excited to see who the midfielder was and what it would have made a difference to the team. And we're not going to see that. And if Rangnick fails, does he fail because of him? Or does he fail because he wasn't given what he wanted and had to work with Ollie's team? That's never fair for a manager anyway. It's never fair. That's why Conte will bring players in, because he's took that. Gerrard has been given players. A new manager mustn't ever have to work with another manager's problems. They should be given something as well. There's still time. There's still hope. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. We'll be back at what day? Yeah, we've got an 8 o'clock show tonight, and we've got a 2 o'clock show for you as well. So make sure you tune in for that. Really enjoyed the show this morning. Went into areas a morning show doesn't normally go. But look, you know, I do feel like this. I think that the mantra for the show is basically, we didn't let Martial go. He forced his way out. So we've not sold anybody really or loaned anybody. We should be bringing a player in because Rangnick wants it. We're taking a massive risk on top 4. And ultimately, it's the same old problem at United. I just think this board are useless. And they're always looking to protect themselves. And I don't know about you, but I feel like they're always trying to distance themselves from what's been going on. Richard Arnold wants to talk to Gary Neville, and you know, mate, you've been at this club for years. You're not brand new. You've not come in from bloody BHS or anything like that. They don't even exist. The reality is, you've been at the club for years, and you're trying to pretend that you're something new. You could be a slightly better version than Ed Woodward. You could be a brand new version of a proper CEO, or you could be an Aldi version of Ed Woodward. But you've been at the club for years, mate. Stop pretending like you're new. Murtaugh's been here for years. Fletcher's been here long enough now. These are the people making the big decisions. These are the people telling Rangnick you can't have a midfielder. And don't ever forget it, because they'll try and make you forget it. They are accountable. Rangnick wanted a midfielder. Everyone knows we need a midfielder, and they're the ones saying no. Let's roll the dice and hope we get top 4. The problem at this club is that there will be Twitch today. I know it's a bit of a bonus on a Tuesday, but I'm loving it so much. There will be Twitch today at about 3 o'clock. Yeah, can't wait. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Smash a like on the video. I'll speak to you all soon.